Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 80 of the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. First, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Mr. Tom Haggis.
Downscope. Nobody said that in any of these movies, did they?
No, I don't think they did.
Yeah, that's very disappointing.
Or even up.
Upscope.
Yeah.
Downscope. Lots of submarine, but nothing. The submarine talk went on.
Yeah, very very little periscope action.
That's
Yeah.
the second writer, actor, director, Mr. Kyle Fine.
So I said, I don't use Chrome. I said one Bing only.
Very good, Kyle. I like that.
Well done.
Thank you.
Third, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Mr. Gabriel Rowald.
Gentlemen, I have the con.
Oh, all right. I'm going with the best.
Okay, have a good night.
Wait, thanks, man.
Give me back my
all right.
podcast, you son of a bitch. I'll get James Gandolfini in here to get you out.
Right. Mutiny.
And our fourth panelist is not able to make it tonight, and that is Mr. Tosh Dillinger. We hope Tosh is having fun running an emergency backing up a system for the IT department he works for. So sounds like a lot of fun. So I will be stepping in and voting this month, which this should be fun. I really do enjoy these films. I want to first off say that The Hunt for Red October was one of the first films I ever watched in a home surround sound setting. And I don't know if you guys ever had the VHS copy of The Hunt for Red October, but it was red. And it was beautiful. Like the actual VHS tape was red.
Yeah.
And, it was just weird. And I just remember sitting there with my two other friends, and we're watching it. And anytime like one of the torpedoes came or they started pinging, we would like turn and look at the speakers because it was brand new to us, sitting in our own, sitting in a friend's house listening to this. It was awesome. So that's just my little rehash of my memories of Hunt for Red October. So let's poke the monkey, and I've already given away one of the films we're talking about. So here, you'll find out the second one.
Ladies and gentlemen, Yankees and Ruskies, welcome to the main event! Tonight, two silent service sausage parties start an underwater bloodbath to find out who will hit its target and who will be deep six. In the first quarter, from 1995, written by Michael Schiffer, directed by Tony Scott, starring Gene Hackman, Denzel Washington, and Matt Craven, Crimson Tide. In the second quarter, from 1990, written by Larry Ferguson and Donald E. Stewart, directed by John McTiernan, starring Sean Connery, Alec Baldwin, and Scott Glenn. The Hunt for
let's just get right to it. Let's move on to our first round, which is writing.
Okay, so before we start, if you hear something sound like a bunch of crinkling bags, one of my cats is going nuts and playing with a toy, so I can't really stop her.
That's all right.
Awesome.
Last month, I was kind of listening back on certain segments, so you can totally hear Sarge snoring behind me in his bed.
Nice.
I was like, what's that noise? It was starting to weird me out. And then I'm like, oh, that's what it is. So you may hear that tonight too.
Right on. So writing. Hunt for Red October, based on a Tom Clancy novel. I'm not sure what the source material is for Crimson Tide. But to me, they were two very similar type stories about the only two kind of compelling stories you can tell on a submarine. One about, war inside the boat and possibly a war on the outside world, and the other being losing contact and having mysterious intentions deep under the sea. I suppose, oh my God, my cat is going insane. Oh boy. Sorry, that's distracting. That's distracting.
The timing
me.
was perfect.
Yeah.
So you said something about the sea, and then there was this kind of like swishing sound. It kind of sounded
this cat hates water. So I think both of these movies nail all the technical jargon. I think for longer movies, they keep your attention very well. They feel tense, and the story keeps moving along. I think they both suffer from going to the well one too many times on a few different situations. There's one too many brushes with a torpedo. There's one too many fights during the mutiny, etc. I think that pads it a little bit, and it maybe shouldn't. But I thought all the dialogue was very tense, and it kept the action moving. I'm not sure how much of Sean Connery's performance is based on just his natural charisma or the words they put in his mouth, but I thought he delivered the hell out of those lines. I thought the writers of these movies know how to write monologues for leading men actors, and they know how to write conflict. So I enjoyed the writing of both of these movies. When I came into this round, I wasn't particularly looking forward to these movies. I'd seen them before in the past, but I don't remember liking them all that much. They didn't stand out to me. But upon rewatching these, I absolutely enjoyed watching both of these movies, despite them being both north of 2 hours, mostly taking place in a very small, a very small confined ship. Although Hunt for Red October leaps around more. It has more, different set pieces. Crimson Tide, once you're on the boat, that's like it for a lot of the movie. But I thought they did a great job keeping the story moving, keeping the intensity up, and stop you from getting bored or kind of wandering away. I was always invested in what was going on. And I've bored you all to death.
No, I was on mute.
Same here.
I agree. I think one of the things for me is that I felt like Hunt for Red October, the character development was a little bit deeper. You get to know a little bit more about these characters. They're not just kind of archetypes for these kind of conflicting personalities or anything. They're actually people, and I'm guessing that's probably as a result of it being the source material being a book, which was probably more developed in that respect as well. So, but I thought that they were both well written, and like you said, Kyle, the dialogue was fantastic, and they are very tense, well structured stories. I thought the writing was pretty strong on both.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that like you said, Crimson Tide, the story really is confined to the boat, and for that, I think Crimson Tide does a better job of kind of getting across that idea, the claustrophobia that you get with being on a submarine, whereas Red October is constantly in and out of the submarine the entire time, and there's a lot happening outside, and you don't get any of that with Crimson Tide, and I think. That's one of the reasons I think I lean towards the story more on Crimson Tide, because that the claustrophobia kind of becomes part of the story, and Red October apparently they can come and go from these submarines as much as they need to, because like, oh, we'll just get you out of here on a helicopter, or
Right.
drop in and say hello. But with that being said, though, the action scenes in Red October are benefits from that, because there's obviously some tense submarine battles that are a little bit more tense in Red October than they are in Crimson Tide, where the confrontation is actually between the people on the boat. So as similar as they appear, they're actually two really kind of different movies in terms of how the plot plays out.
And just watching Crimson Tide, I remember. Have any of the three of you, have you guys seen Failsafe? The Henry Fonda, Walter Matthau. So Crimson Tide kind of reminds me a little bit of Failsafe, like the whole are they attacking? Should we attack? Not getting the information that you need. And I agree with everything you said, everything you guys have said. It's Crimson Tide feels very claustrophobic once you get in that submarine, and once you're in there, and then I think also it helps with some of the camera movement. I think they were intentionally doing a lot of close-ups to make it feel even tighter at times. I really do like the writing for both these films. And I mean, if you're taking a Tom Clancy novel and you're making it into a movie, that's got to be an undertaking, considering most of his novels are like 1,000 pages. Like, they're usually just huge. So I imagine they had a lot to pull from and to pick and choose from. And Crimson Tide, I don't know if it says it was based on a story, but I can't really find anything. That's what I was kind of looking for when you guys were talking. And but I think Kyle hit it right on the nose. I think there was too much back and forth, like, oh, we've taken over the ship. Oh no, now these guys have taken over the ship. Oh, now they've taken over the ship again. And it was kind of that flip-flop thing that I remember originally bothering me the first time I saw it. But other than that, the stories I think are great. It's either going to be man versus man, inside the ship, or man versus enemy outside the ship. Like Kyle said, it's really difficult to do these types of dramas. But I think submarines are a great place to do a war drama. You've had Crimson Tide, Hunt for Red October, U-571. What else? Should I mention down Periscope? What else? What was the original idea, Tom? What was the other film? The older
Das Boot.
Well,
no, it was
Das
a Clark
Boot is
Gable
fantastic.
movie.
Yeah.
Run Silent, Run Deep.
Yeah, Run Silent, Run Deep. I mean, these are all films that are really, if you watch them, they're fantastic. The drama is there, and I really have to say, if you're going to do a drama and you want to do something, put it in a submarine, I guess, because really there's some good stuff in here, and it's going to be really difficult for me to choose who I think won this category.
Well, it creates a lot of forced human interaction. I think confusion is a really good tool to bring to a story like this, because when you're in a submarine, as we saw, if you're not in periscope depth, your ability to tell what's going on around you is limited to sound, time, math, maps. So it's very difficult to come to grips with what's actually happening, and you're at the mercy of a lot of your systems and your lack of communication and things like that. So I think both these movies tapped into that very well.
Yeah. Yep.
Just a couple of quick things. This kind of falls in the trivia thing, but we've all been wondering what the source material of Crimson Tide was.
Oh, did you find something?
Yeah, I found something. It says producers Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer's collective creative wheels began to turn when they watched the 4-part documentary Submarines, Sharks of Steel.
Huh.
So,
Okay.
according to this site,
Okay.
it's a Mental Floss website, which I think is
Oh, yeah.
reputable. Yeah. So there you go.
Cool.
And then, I think this falls into writing. I noticed that one thing that was kind of missing, except for one brief moment in Crimson Tide, was kind of the issue of race. Because you felt like, with Denzel's character and Gene Hackman's character, that the way they were, that might be an issue. But it was overall pretty much avoided, except for that one part where they talk about the Lipinzahner stallions.
Right.
Where there's this hint at some sort of racial tension, but it never really gets. And I was wondering what you guys thought of that. Do you think that they avoided it intentionally, or that it was always there, kind of like a subterranean thing, and that's the only time it came up?
Well, to be honest, the military was long unsegregated. Like they had a lot more. Oh God. What's the term? You're equals.
Equality.
The equality in the military, you have your ranks, and really color, gender usually doesn't matter. According to a lot of the good soldiers, at least that I've spoken to, it doesn't matter what color you are, what creed you are, what sex you are, as long as you are there for your fellow soldier, and the rank system. It does not matter. So there was a lot more equality in the military, I believe, just from history that I've read, and I'm sure that there were probably racists on both sides that would call each other names, but when it comes down to it, that you're relying on that person to keep you alive. I will say the Lipinzahner stallions, to me, wasn't about race, but it was about both men's views of the truth. They were both right, but they each saw their own truth. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like
yeah, but there was definitely I agree with that. That makes sense. But there was definitely that one part where they're like, well, they're all white, and then Denzel says they're born black. And that to me that was kind of, but maybe I just misread it.
No,
I think a racial.
I'm with you too.
I mean, yes, but I think coming down to it, it was more about each one was right in their own way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's definitely something that they talk about at the end of the movie very explicitly. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just wondering what you guys' thoughts were on that.
And I'm sure we could make the jokes, they're on the Alabama. Of course they're going to be racist. But, you could make those jokes all day. But no, I can see that. But I just read into it as in they're going against each other because they're both right. And that's going to play out throughout the film.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Gabe. I saw the same thing. It kind of made me mad because I felt like it was just a trick and that it wasn't. I feel like it was designed to make you think that there was something there, but it was never explicit or spelled out enough for me to really know if it was an issue or not. And it kind of bugged me that it wouldn't commit one way or the other, because James Gandolfini does some very, I would say, suspect things to a recruit who gets on the bus with them. Yeah. And that recruit is not white. And that it's so strange that it's like under the surface, but it felt manufactured. It didn't make any sense why, if Gene Hackman was so against this, he would ever give this guy his XO position. He could find a million reasons not to do that. And probably doesn't even need to give a reason. So that kind of felt cheap to me.
Yeah.
I
just felt like it was out of place because it was never really an issue in any other section of the movie necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
And just make sure you guys know, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist in the military. It's just that usually.
Oh, that's how I read it.
whenever
you were giving a rubber stamp to the military.
Usually, you hear about it doesn't matter those as long as you're there for your comrades. That's what matters.
Sure.
But
and truth be told, that's what should matter.
Exactly.
Kind of ridiculous any other way, but I spout my liberal politics. I'm sorry.
It was, the military's been very integrated. They've except for putting women in combat, they are usually pretty integrated. And I don't believe women are allowed to be on the submarines. Just because, and I was kind of thinking that I'm like, wow, this is both of these films, which we'll talk in acting. I'll bring up my point, but I believe
lots of semen.
Yeah, lots of semen. I believe, and I could be totally wrong about this, but as far as I know, I don't think women are allowed to serve on them. But I'm going to
Google that while you talk.
Google it while we talk. Let's go.
So
ahead
neither of these movies passed the Bechdel test.
Right. Right. Well, that's because there's there's one woman.
Yeah.
There's essentially one woman, Gates McFadden, right? In Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, Yeah. I told Heather, I said, is Sean Connery or is Jack Ryan married to Beverly Crusher?
Beverly Crusher? Yeah, exactly. Oh God, she was so hot. Anyway, I think she's beautiful. I've had a crush on her ever since Star Trek Next Generation. So
is she really British? Because
I don't know. I just know her as Beverly Crusher, and I've always just had a crush on her.
I've always had a crush on Wesley Crusher.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
In a totally platonic way.
All right.
So as of 2010, women can serve on Navy submarines.
Okay.
Prior to that, no.
Okay.
At least that's what Wikipedia says.
All right. I'll believe it.
All right.
I'll believe it because I have no other way of checking, so I'll believe it. So, yeah, I mean, when these films were made, they weren't. And also, if I remember correctly, submarine service is all volunteer.
I have a friend who served on a nuclear submarine, and I should have called him to talk about this.
I've actually talked to John a few times about his service on a submarine. Yes,
I should have called him. I kept debating. I was like, man, is this even going to be relevant? I totally fucking should have.
We should have had him. Yeah, we should have had him as a guest.
Yeah, if I would have known Tosh wouldn't be able to make it, we could have had him on.
Yeah, he spent I want to say 6 months, 9 months, or something like that, deployed out on a sub, and he spent a lot of his time in the Navy working on nuclear sub.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to hear him talk about some of the stuff that he can talk about.
Pretty terrifying.
Yeah,
some of the stuff he does tell you about that. That's obviously not classified. We're aware of their capabilities, but holy shit. Yeah.
All right, let's put it to a vote.
Oh shit.
Kyle.
I am going to vote for Hunt for Red October because of the small issues I have with Crimson Tide, adding little bits and pieces that don't seem to fit. The outside story to me isn't as compelling as the story of Connery's motivations.
Okay. Gabe?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Hunt for Red October as well because of the I felt like a little bit deeper character development.
Okay. And Tom?
Oh man. Shit. I'm actually gonna go with Crimson Tide, and the reason is that I feel like the story. I feel like the story is a little bit more compelling. I mean, it's not the scope isn't as big, but the story that they're able to tell is it's really compelling, and you really want to see how it comes, and the power play back and forth between two great actors. I think I'm gonna go with that one.
Right. Yeah. Oh man. See, Tom, that's where I was going to, was the whole power play between Denzel and Gene Hackman. Like I said earlier, I read into it as they're both trying to do the right thing, according to them.
Can I add just another from the same page? There's just another really quick piece of trivia related to that. It says both Hackman and Washington were wrong about the Lipin's Honor Stallions.
They were.
Yes, it says Ramsey claimed they were Portuguese, and Hunter believed them to be Spanish, when in fact they're Slovenian.
Yep.
So neither of them were right about that part. However, the part about them being born dark in color and becoming white later apparently is true.
All right.
So, anyway.
Oh man, I've got to go for Red October. Sorry.
Come on.
Sorry.
I'm not that invested in Crimson Tide for my pick clearly, so I might change mine.
I don't know. I like the acting or the writing for the actors.
You're in the wrong category.
Sorry. Yeah. Jesus. How long has it been I've been on that show? All right. Let's move on to our second round, which is acting.
I feel like Sean Connery and Gene Hackman pretty much kind of cancel each other out. They're both really, really great. I mean, they're the face of these two movies. And so then I kind of worked down the cast list. You know, how do the lower cast members match up? And I really don't know what to do with that because the supporting cast in this are really good. I mean, you could easily have, you know, some cast members that are not quite as good, and I'm drawn more to Crimson Tide in terms of the cast because Viggo Mortensen is absolutely fantastic in it, in his small role. You know, with his whole betrayal and of his friend. Then at the same time, you have Sam Neill and Red October. I'm just going to list people off until somebody cuts in and says something with a little bit more meat because both of the casts are really, really great. And there really aren't. I'm trying to think if there's any really weak parts in the cast. You know, I gotta say, if you kind of almost feel now that we're 5 Jack Ryan movies and his TV series removed from Red October,
right.
It's almost like Alec Baldwin is out of place. Actually, to be honest with you, that he's not quite action-y, adventure-y enough to be Jack Ryan, but he does do the kind of awkward, you know, fish out of water, pun intended. You know, he does that pretty well in this movie, and that works for Jack Ryan in this one. You know, but so I don't know. It's kind of funny that Alec Baldwin would kind of be the one that almost throws it to Crimson Tide because I know that Jack Ryan, there's better actors out there that could have played Jack Ryan, and he really now seeing what Alec Baldwin's done recently, it's like, yeah, he's not really the Jack Ryan type.
Right.
So,
well, and you know what? Let's go through the Jack Ryan. So, Alec Baldwin was the first. Then Harrison Ford.
Yep.
And then
Ben Affleck.
Wasn't Ben Affleck? Yeah.
Chris Pine. And now John Krasinski from The Office is going to be
really
Jack
crazy.
Ryan. Yeah. Actually, I can see it, man. I loved him in 13 Hours.
13 Hours.
Tom, oh my God. Yeah. So Sean Connery just has a presence, right? And we were talking before we started recording. Gene Hackman can play such an asshole, but he can play it so well. Like he is just there's that right amount of cocky, you know, and the right amount of, if you disagree with me, I'm going to kick you in the balls, and probably not physically. I'm just going to do it mentally. And he just, oh my God, I love Gene Hackman. And, you know, Sean Connery just bringing this gravitas as this Russian, you know, captain that's old and wise. And, Scott Glenn. I love Scott Glenn. Sam Neill.
He was great.
Sam Neill is just, oh yeah, I would like to have seen Montana. Come on. James Earl Jones, and you got Peter Firth, Tim Curry, Jeffrey Jones.
The acting talent in these movies is silly. You could spend an hour researching how many awards all these people have won.
Yes.
It's unreal. The cast lists in these movies are unreal.
But then you go to Crimson Tide and you got Denzel, which 3 out of the 4 of us agree is a good actor. And
I agree he's a good actor.
More to come on that from me.
Yes. Viggo Mortensen.
I'm sliding towards Gabe's point of view.
Viggo Mortensen, James Gandolfini. And then you go down and you've got Ricky Schroeder and Steve Zahn. You know, like
Ryan Phillippe.
Yeah, it's insane.
I'm trying to remember who. I keep seeing things like this was his first role and that kind of stuff. Which one was he? I don't
He's
remember.
the guy. He's the private who's like crying on the bed and looking at the fish tank.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a single line, I don't think, in the whole movie.
Oh.
And the guy who stood out to me was the guy who played Rube Baker from Major League Two, the catcher, what's his face? Tom Berenger, substitute sniper.
Right.
He's like teaching him to take over, but he has to like recite the Playboy centerfold to be
that's
able to throw the
right.
ball back to the plate.
Yes.
He's the guy who gets the shotgun and the helmet, gets his nose broke and tied up and all that.
Michael Milhomes.
And I just yelled Rube at my TV when he came on, and Heather's like, "What the fuck?"
No, it's not Michael Milhomes.
What the fuck?
So I love in Hunt for Red October, 3 of the main principal actors at the beginning of the movie are Scottish, from New Zealand, and British.
Yeah.
And they're all playing Russians.
Right.
It's
and
unreal.
that comes down to my only heartburn with the acting in these movies. The casts are fantastic all the way around, like we've discussed. You really can't. There's no weak parts, but my heartburn was, and maybe I don't know if this is acting or directing or what, but I kind of wish. I get the transition from speaking Russision to speaking English. So people don't have to read subtitles. People generally don't like that.
You're killing me.
I get that. I get it. That's fine by me. I kind of wish they hadn't, but I get it.
I wanted to talk about that in directing. Damn it.
You can.
We'll
I won't get into that any further. But I wish when they had done that the actors could have at least tried to have Russian sounding
Russian
accents.
accents.
Maybe they did.
What's that?
Maybe they did, and Tony Scott was like, "Fuck, stop it."
Maybe it was terrible.
No, it wasn't.
But then when
Yeah.
I love Sean Connery. You're right. He's got a commanding presence. He's just there's just something about him that it just really kind of like takes over the screen. But when he started speaking English with it, or with his Scottish accent, I was like, it doesn't work for me that he's Russian.
I loved it. I'm not gonna.
I love his voice and everything, but I'm like, he's supposed to be Russian, and so that's my only heartburn with any of the acting in these movies. Really,
Sean Connery's accent wasn't Russian.
I thought he sounded Scottish. Still, he sounded like Sean.
He
Connery.
sounds Scottish to me. It's
Really?
so thick.
I'm so bad with accents, so I don't know.
What's funny is they make an excuse for him in the movie. They say he's not Russian; he's Lithuanian by birth.
Right.
Why don't they just say he's Scottish by birth, and then just hand wave it away? You don't have to do this nonsense.
I also want to correct something here. We said Gates McFadden was the only female in both these movies. I was wrong. Vanessa Bell Calloway played Julia.
Yeah, there's the mom.
Yes. So technically, we had 2 women between 2 of these films,
and 1 child, and that's about it.
Right. And then I want to point out, like this, we should maybe just change this to cinema Shane Black, because he was actually in Red October.
He was.
Yes.
He wasn't telling dirty jokes. I didn't know.
Uncredited. He USS Reuben James Crewman. Uncredited.
Nice.
I'm just
funny.
going through the list here. So it's that's so silly. Like somehow
We got a thing for Shane Black.
He always finds his way back into something here on the show. But it's hard to argue against some of these actors.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess there was one other one that I thought was a little bit over the top and a little bit melodramatic. And it was the Stellan Skarsgård as the enemy, the enemy
Captain
Russian
Tupolev?
sub captain. I thought he was a little kind of over the top.
Oh, I liked
a little
him.
overly dramatic.
He just seemed
liked
crazy,
him.
like
Yes.
unhinged
Yeah.
almost. I love it.
Yeah.
I gotta give
think
the
it was
movie
very fitting.
credit. They buried him for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You totally forgot he was there until the very end when he shows up, and I just went, awesome. You didn't mention him. You just let him go, and he was, because you remember at the beginning he's speeding after him.
Yep.
They don't talk about him, and all of a sudden he shows back up. I thought that was awesome.
Yep. Agreed. All right. You guys have anything else to say about acting? Kyle, did you want to say something about how you're going over to Gabe's side?
Okay,
About Denzel?
so I still like Denzel Washington, but we've watched two Denzel Washington movies in the last few months, and it's kind of striking how similar he is in these roles. He's delivering with the same. He's got the same cadence.
Right.
He's got the same style. He has an incredibly expressive face, and that works well for him. But I'm starting to see this little pattern that maybe Gabe's talking about, where he plays Denzel Washington in every movie.
Yeah, and and I think in this particular movie, he is outshined a little bit or overshadowed a bit by Gene Hackman because Gene, like you said before, Mike, Gene Hackman is he's so commanding in his presence, and he's so good at being that. But you could make a similar argument about Gene Hackman as well.
That's true.
He kind of plays a similar character a lot, and it makes you wonder, like, how much of an asshole is Gene Hackman in real life? Is he actually a nice guy, or is he actually kind of like this a little bit? It's hard to say. But you could make a similar argument. But that doesn't necessarily diminish their screen presence or their likability as actors. But it just says something about their range to play different types of characters. Is all I'm saying. So. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else? I know we just started throwing out names and speaking about it, but really both these films are filled with very talented actors.
This is just a love fest. It's crazy the amount of acting talent in these movies. Really, the rosters are insane.
Right. And then it's, it even has people in it where you're like, I know them. Oh, that's, so-and-so from this. Like, it's just filled with that. And of course they're, 95 and 90, both these films. So they're pretty old, or they're not really old, but they're old. So, I mean, a lot of these actors have since gotten big roles or been in multiple other films that we've probably seen. But it's just amazing to go back and see who's who and how they act. All right, let's put it to a vote. Tom.
Me first. Can I take a pass for a second?
Okay. Kyle.
All right, thanks.
God, these movies are so close to me.
Yes.
Gene Hackman is wonderful at shouting. Sean Connery is great at holding still. When he's silent and just sits there, it's like a magnet.
Right. Very
just
calm.
watching his brain work.
Yeah.
When he's timing that, when he's turning towards the torpedo and he's timing it. Oh my God, it's riveting. It's just riveting. This is, I want to call this a tie, but that feels unfair. Oh, shit. Okay, I'm going to go for Crimson Tide, but just barely. Just barely.
I think it is more of a character-driven piece. The actors kind of have to drive that a little bit more. Yeah.
God, that's hard. That's such a thin line for me.
I know it. I'm right there with you. I think all of us are right there with you, unless Gabe just comes in and he's like, well, fuck that.
Wow. Denzel Washington's in this one, so the other one.
Yeah. No.
Go ahead, Gabe.
I'm going to go with Crimson Tide as well, because in part because of the Russian accent thing in Hunt for Red October. And I felt like I like Alec Baldwin in it, but I didn't feel like his performance was especially great in Hunt for Red October. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't really outstanding either. So yeah, I'm going with Crimson Tide.
All right. Tom?
Yeah, Crimson Tide.
All right.
Hurry up, move on before I change my mind.
All right. And then I'll vote for Red October, I guess.
I knew you were going to vote for Connery.
Oh, God. I love Connery. So there's a great story that I'll tell later on, maybe, about my love for Connery and how it got us into trouble. All right. Let's move on to our third round, which is directing.
I think both of these films, we keep talking about how close they are, and they are very close, and they're both competently directed as well. Both are very well done. I think one of the things that stood out to me initially as a difference between the two was the cinematography for Crimson Tide. I thought was fantastic, but that doesn't really surprise me too much from Tony Scott. Being related to Ridley. And knowing that Tony Scott's style is kind of like that. It's very dramatic lighting, very and and I just really, I thought the cinematography was really strong. It was all very low light, but still very, workable. You could still see everything that was going on. And one of the things that amazes me, and maybe we can hold this for overall, but that it amazes me that they can film in these tight spaces. I realize that they're not actual subs in every instance and that kind of thing, but to film in something in a space that looks that small, I think is incredible. And they both did a great job with that. They both made it seem very convincing that you were inside of this little tiny space. I felt like the cinematography wasn't quite as strong in Red October. There were a few places where it fell down for me. It was good overall, but there was a few spots where I'm like, well, this is a little bit. It seems a little bit lazy or sloppy. I really didn't like the blue screen, green screen effect at the end where they're on the river. Oh, yeah. That really stood out to me, and it was too important of a part of the film for it to be that bad. But again, I don't, maybe it was what was available to them at the time, and that's the best they could get. But so I just felt like a number of things, and I felt the pacing was a little bit better in Crimson Tide as well. It's very terse, although both are great, but it's very tense and terse with Crimson Tide, and a little bit except during the moments where they're fighting subs. It's a little bit slower paced for Red October to me.
Right. Well, I really want to start off with the whole changing, and I know I think I've probably talked about this on another episode, but I really, really like the fact that McTiernan uses the camera to move in on someone speaking Russian and pulls back and they're speaking English. Mm-hmm. And I know you kind of had a problem with the accents, but I think that is a great trick in the film to make it so. The only thing. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the only thing is, I wish it weren't. It looked like a zoom as opposed to maybe like a dolly.
Right.
That's it. That was my only problem with that. I liked the idea.
It's a great idea.
Did you feel maybe they picked the wrong actor to do it to? Would it have been better if they did it with Connery?
Absolutely.
Yeah. See, I felt like they picked the wrong guy. Right. They did the diplomat, and in my memory, it was their conversation, and they zoomed in on both mouths, and the dialogue changed, and they pulled out.
Yeah.
And that always sat better. This time, I mean, it wasn't a real memory. I'd created that. But now watching it, they just picked the wrong dude to do it.
Right.
It is clever because I've never seen it before, and I don't think since. But just you picked the wrong guy, in my opinion.
Now, McTiernan is known for kind of doing not really that shot, but dealing with language like that. I remember in the 13th Warrior when Antonio Banderas is hanging out with, these Viking-esque warriors. He does a great job of showing him listening and learning. And, he does this great little montage of Antonio Banderas' character learning the language. And I don't know why. I think it just sticks out to me for that. But this is our second John McTiernan film this year on Cinesmack. This is our second Denzel. This is God knows how many times Shane Black has been mentioned. But I believe this is our first Tony Scott film, which kind of surprises me because I am a big fan of Tony Scott's work. Like you said, Gabe, I think he's a very kinetic filmmaker. He likes to move the camera. Now,
for sure,
in some of his later work, sometimes it can get distracting. It's my same problem that I speak about with Michael Bay. Like he's very kinetic, but anymore, especially with the Transformers films, it feels like he's becoming a caricature of himself and needs to kind of pull that back a little bit. And I feel that Tony Scott, towards the end of his career, was kind of going that route. And it's too bad that we won't see anything else from him. But he did work really well with Denzel Washington. I mean, Unstoppable, Taking of Wilhelm 1, 2, 3, Deja Vu. Pelham, thank you.
Yeah.
I can never say that correctly. Man on Fire, Crimson Tide, and I think that's it, right? And then he did.
He likes
Enemy
some
of the
Denzel
State.
Washington.
Right, and he
Yeah,
did
he does.
Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
Gene Hackman's in that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I can't believe you guys haven't
Right
watched a Tony Scott movie. It seems like so many of them would be great for
Oh, they are. Like,
for this. Yeah.
I'm actually going to recommend something for next year, which will be. I wonder how Days of Thunder and Top Gun would go against each other.
Cool.
Because essentially they're kind of the same film.
But then you got to do Val Kilmer versus Michael Rooker. Does that seem fair to you?
Yeah, that's true.
They'd losing one of them would lose in a beauty contest back then. For
Yeah,
sure.
and we've discussed John McTiernan's filmography before, when we did Predator, but both of these are very competent directors, and I think they did great work. I liked Tony Scott's use of the Dutch angle in a lot of them, to maybe show that the ship's heading down, or that the sub's heading downward or heading upward or turning. And the cinematography, I'll agree, it caught my eye more, but I do love the lighting in Hunt for Red October. Crimson Tide kind of has the great movements, where Hunt for Red October, there's some great lighting inside the sub. And I thought that really stood out to me, especially on the bridge.
They get a little crazy with the gels on some of these,
Yeah.
the bright
They
blue,
do.
I'm sure that, whoever's in charge of lighting, the cinematographer, were just like, oh my gosh, I get to use colors I never get to use. But it was,
Yeah.
it's funny because they both do it. Crimson Tide does it. It's coming from the instrument panel, whereas, Hunt for Red October does it to help keep what submarine you're on clear.
Yes.
Kind of like what Soderbergh does in Traffic, where you're like, oh, it's warm, so this is where you are, and it's cool colors, and now you're in this boat.
Right.
And at least they didn't make the Russian submarine red, so I gotta give them credit for that. Include with the real obvious one, but Crimson Tide, like when Gene Hackman's trying to get the key to launch, I mean, they're just like hit with these really bright colors, and it's really overpowering. So they both suck in that aspect.
So you didn't like the color?
It's overdone. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just too much. Just knock it back a little bit. I just don't feel like. I mean, where's that? Is the colors really like that on a submarine? I don't know. It feels like the control panels. It'd be pretty. Yeah, I imagine it's pretty black.
Right.
I don't think it's like a Christmas tree.
No, probably not at all. Yeah.
But I want to talk real quick. The scene where Denzel and Gene Hackman are like crossing paths in the submarine and trying to take control of the missiles. I absolutely love that scene, and how ballsy it was for like Denzel to be on the catwalk directly above Gene Hackman as he's crossing underneath. And it's just, a lot of times your the suspension of disbelief is like, how could that possibly? How does he not notice he's up there? But the way he has it framed up and the camera movement, you can totally buy it. And it makes the whole scene so intense that you see the two of them in that same shot.
Right.
And just the action and everything of the two of them crossing in such a confined space. I don't know. That's, I thought that's some directing that I just really, really liked from that one.
No, that's a great point.
Thank you.
All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to directing?
I think both movies suffer from one too many beats. Some of the performances in Hunt for Red October got a little goofy at times. I feel like they weren't reined in. Tim Curry especially. Maybe his character is supposed to be like that, but I felt like it got a little off the rails sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I agree with almost everything else you guys are saying. They did a great job making it feel cramped and keeping tight on that stuff. It looks tense. Tony Scott is great with the movement, especially all over the ship. I was wondering why Denzel Washington can't stop running around the ship, and I just feel like Tony Scott doesn't want to stop. Doesn't want to stop any of the movement.
Right.
If he wants to be in the shot, he's got to keep up with the camera.
Right.
Yeah. So John McTiernan sitting a lot more with some of the things going on, and knowing when to let that happen, but it's also kind of more tense and slow paced in parts. So I bet they're both really well done. It's hard to find a real gripe.
Now,
They did both do a great job of making what would seem like a boring subject, being stuck on a submarine, to something that was actually very suspenseful and exciting.
right.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to point out, it would seem like these directors are flip-flopped on each of these films. You know, you would think John McTiernan would be good at, you know, just keeping it on board a submarine and, you know, one guy trying to go against, you know, half the crew. Let's face it, you know, he did Die Hard, where, you know, Tony Scott is the more movement based. You know, it would be interesting to see if what Tony Scott's Red October would look like and John McTiernan's Crimson Tide. See what the, you know, just to see. And it's just something that I've been thinking about over the last week or two.
Yeah, it's interesting.
All right, let's put it to a vote. Gabe?
Well, I think this for me is the category that is the closest between these. They're close on all of the categories, but for me, this one is the hardest. I don't know.
Do I need to give you a moment?
This is tough. I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with Crimson Tide.
All right.
Because of the cinematography. I get Tom's point with the whole gel thing and the colors, but I kind of liked it actually a little bit, and in the how dynamic it was inside of a submarine.
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with Crimson Tide.
All right, Kyle.
Whoever had the licensing to 1990s military font made a ton of money.
Yes, they did.
Because that font is in both of these movies like crazy. And probably every military movie for about 20 years between the 80s and early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, another very close category. I'm going to give it to Hunt for Red October because I think they do a better job of keeping the outside world involved in what's going on without breaking your immersion in the movie. And Crimson Tide had some issues with that, in my opinion.
All right, Tom.
And I'm gonna go with Crimson Tide because of the fact that it's an action movie with so little action. So it's it's as thrilling. Yeah, it's as thrilling as any Michael Bay movie. I'll say that. But it's it's an action movie that there's not a lot of running or anything like that, but it's definitely very tense. So,
and I don't know if I just thought this or if I did say it, but it's a good thing they didn't have Tom Cruise on one of these ships. You know, when you brought up that Denzel was constantly running. Yeah.
Oh shit.
They'd have to put Tom Cruise in a suit and he'd run around the sub a couple times.
And I mean, you can only cast guys 5'3" or shorter in the supporting cast.
Right.
Because you can't run on an Apple box.
All right. Well, man, this is hard. I really like both of these directors' library of films, and both of these movies are, like I said earlier, really well directed. I'm gonna have to go with Red October. There's something. It seems like I'm gonna side with more of the adventure of the film, you know, instead of the claustrophobic, you know, stuck in a tin can for a couple hours, which I still really enjoy, but you know, just giving it the little nudges, that whole adventure element that Alec Baldwin kind of sells. So I'm gonna go with that. All right, we're gonna move on to our fourth and final round, which is overall. And that's me. I get to start this off, boy. I want to talk about. We usually, you know, save music, effects, things like that. I want to start off with music, and I'll let you guys speak about the rest.
That's funny.
I own both of these soundtracks, which should be no surprise to you guys. But oh man, totally not ready here. I think. Well, the music.
Wasn't one of them a Hans Zimmer?
Hans Zimmer's Crimson Tide, which
That's
you can
right,
definitely tell it's Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer has a sound. and so does Basil Poledarius.
Really? Did he do?
Doris.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just real quick, I would like to speak on some of the films that they have done, which, to no surprise, if you guys are film fans, Hans Zimmer very, very well. Like, oh my God, it just goes on and on. He's been a composer. Let's see how many times here. Composer 185 credits. 185 credits. And Basil has been 93 credits. These guys have worked. And I really like the sound of the Hunt for Red October. I like that music. And I know it's very 80s, early 90s type music, kind of the synthesizer, where Hans Zimmer's more of the, I have a large orchestra in a room and I'm, compose this. They both sound very different, but I enjoy both of the pieces of music. I will say though, Basil's, I'm trying to think, there's the actual name of one of the tracks, and I can't remember. I think, it's called Kaboom. And it's, I believe they play it during the final chase, which whenever that pops on my iPod, it gets my heart racing for some reason, and I love it. So, not taking anything from Hans Zimmer, because like I said, the man has done some fantastic score work, but for me in these films, Basil kind of nudges him out just by a nose.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the notes that I made was that for Crimson Tide, I said it was a bit melodramatic, especially the music. Mm-hmm. And I thought both of these, I didn't dislike the music, but there was like this, it was so like hugely patriotic, military sounding kind of music. It was all very big, sweeping, like, be proud to be, a soldier kind of music. And I thought at times it was a little much, but it wasn't a huge deal, and it fit the, I think it fit the films and, what they were about. But yeah, it's funny because I did make a note of that. It's one of the first notes I made, like right away. It like hit me right away in Crimson Tide. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a little over the top, but it's not bad.
All right, I'm done with starting. So if anyone else wants to add anything to overall, I mean, the effects, Gabe hit it on the nose. I've always been bothered by the green screen at the end of Red October. I'm like, oh, guys, you could have spent a little more time on that.
Yeah. It was just bad enough to be distracting.
Right.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
But I mean, the effects in both of these films are pretty
good. Otherwise,
they still hold up. I mean, they sometimes you catch a little bit of it being dated, but
is the underwater stuff? Is it computer or models? Do we know on these two?
I assume it's got to be mostly models for the subs.
I would think. Let me look at this. I'll look that up while you guys discuss anything else.
Okay, I have one question about Crimson Tide that maybe you guys can help me with. Okay, whatever happened to the crew members who got sealed into that compartment? Because they get sealed in there, and it's a big dramatic thing, and then we never hear anything about it for the rest of the movie.
When it floods?
Yeah, I mean, of course they die. I get that, but
okay.
It's like it's like they get sealed in, and then it's like everybody forgets about it. There's never another reference to that through the whole movie. Not even at the end of the movie where they're like, there's no mention of that. Oh, soldiers died or anything. That doesn't seem to bother anybody. So I was like, I thought that was a little bit weird that they just kind of like they had that moment, and then after that, nobody cares.
Well, I would think it would bother him, but would it really pull the story anymore? Like
Yeah, it's probably not necessary to come back to them, but I just
Right.
thought it was a little strange that they have this whole big sequence about, oh, are we gonna seal them or not? Should we? Do I tell him to seal it? Yeah, seal it, and then he doesn't want to. You're like, come on, guys, and he waits till the last possible second, and then there's a whole big thing, and we see these guys, drowning, and then
Right.
and that's that. Then it's I don't know. That was just. I just thought it was that they kind of just overlooked it, at the end of the film. But
Yeah.
I don't know if it was critical or not. I just thought it was something strange.
Just real quick, the miniature submarine lineup for Hunt for Red October, they built a 21-foot long and a 4-foot long Red October model, and a 9-foot Chronolov sub, 2 10-foot Dallas subs, and a 2-foot rescue sub, and
cool.
a 6-foot torpedo. Yeah. And, so most of it was probably model work on both, and then, visual effects to make it look like it was in water, and, adding the bubbles and such. But, there you go, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought both did a great job with that kind of stuff.
Oh,
it was
man.
very convincing that those were real subs.
Right.
I never once went, oh, that looks like a model.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I probably knew in the back of my head. But.
I don't know if either one or any of you guys have ever been on a submarine, but I've been on a diesel sub from World War II, the Pampanito. And let's just say I was not built to be a submariner back during World War II. And to be honest, it was cramped. But I imagine these have a little more space, but you also have more crew on board. You're talking about submarines that are essentially the size of World War II aircraft carriers. They're just as long as a World War II aircraft carrier. So I imagine there's more room, but then also you have more crew and more things.
It's like going to space.
Right.
You don't take extra shit.
Right.
You got to go underwater. You're there for a mission. You fit everybody in there. It's not about luxury. I actually went to a war museum when I was in London and saw an old Italian submarine, which I didn't know was a thing. But it was 2 parts, and they had a driver and a operator, and they were designed really tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of us, modern man can't really fit in it very well, I would say. And I think this was World War II era, but it was designed to go under blockades, and then you detach the front half of the ship, which was also a bomb, and you would attach it to a ship, and then the person in the front, before doing that, would climb into the back with the other person, and then after they set the bomb on the ship, they would turn around in that little half sub and go back under the blockade.
Oh, man.
And that was just crazy. It was so small. I mean, I'm not shitting you. It could have fit in my living room. It just was tiny, and it was designed that way not to be detected, but also have no idea how you could operate it. Like, it would just be insane. Right. That's one thing that blew my mind. Like, I know nothing about naval warfare. I learned a lot from these movies. I don't know how much of it's accurate, but sonar is a crazy thing. I had no idea how torpedoes worked, that you could drop them from ships and or drop them from helicopters and they would track shit. That was insane. I don't know if that's a real thing.
Actually,
but
it is.
I mean, that stuff was just, I was swept up and convinced by these movies that they were telling me the truth, that that's how this thing worked. It never felt like hokey or bad. I thought they got the jargon right. It felt right to me. Man. So, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the hell out of these movies. I was very surprised.
Speaking of sonar, I really like Jonesy.
Yeah, he starts off as a big part,
yeah,
and it kind of gets pared back a little bit. But in both things, sonar is such a huge deal, and your ability to communicate with the outside world. Without it, you're blind. You're just in a giant hunk of steel under a shitload of water. And that would be terrifying. It's my nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. No, I'm a bit claustrophobic. I don't think I'd be suited for that.
That's why it's volunteer.
Yeah.
That's exactly why it's volunteer.
Just imagine waking up, having a bit of a panic attack, and then you're like, oh, I'm in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. and I'm 700 feet below water, and I'm in a giant metal tube.
Yeah.
Just enough to break your mind. I'm just like, oh God, there's no rescue here.
So apparently, the U.S. Navy found the subject of Crimson Tide objectionable and inaccurate. It refused to provide any assistance in the movie's making, so they actually used the French Navy.
Didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Since the U.S. Navy would not cooperate with filming, the French Navy allowed the use of one of their Triumphant-class ballistic missile submarines, along with the aircraft carrier Foch, for several scenes.
Oh yeah, they call it out by name in the CNN reports.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Somewhere in the Mediterranean. I'm some guy from CNN.
Right.
So yeah,
Man.
Is there anything else you guys want to add to either one of these? I mean,
I got kind of a downer to mention.
Yeah.
Boy, there's some bad death stories going on around the cast in Crimson Tide. Daniel Van Bargen from Seinfeld, who plays the crazy Russian extremist. Did you guys realize that was him?
No.
Yeah, that's the guy who works at the Yankees. I think he works at the Yankees with George. Daniel Van Bargen.
Oh my God, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He played a crazy Ukrainian extremist or whatever. He has a very sad end to his life. Tried to commit suicide and failed.
Oh.
And with like a shotgun to the face. It was like really bad.
Oh, no.
And then Tony Scott, of course.
Right.
Oh yeah. That is
Committed
sad.
suicide.
So
Jumped off
like,
the
shit. Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, and then later on it was released he didn't have cancer. It was misdiagnosed.
What?
Oh, that's
I never heard that part.
Yeah. Actually, Daniel Van Borgen, he was the owner of the. It was Kruger. He played Kruger.
Oh, right. Right.
Oh man, of the sanding company or whatever it was, the smoothing company. He's the one. He's like the owner that just doesn't care. He's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, you got Tony Scott, you have him. Let's see who else.
Oh, man. Okay, so I'm going to read this about Von Bargen, if you're queasy. So he shot himself in the temple trying to kill himself, but he failed and called 911. He was living with diabetes at the time and had been living with one leg amputated.
Oh,
he was due to have a couple of toes amputated on the other foot and did not want to have the surgery.
Oh, man.
Oh, I saw him and that story popped through my head and I was like, oh, that's sad. And then I remembered it's directed by Tony Scott and I was like, oh, this movie's cursed. Right. Okay, I'm glad I brought that all down.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Jeez, thanks, dude.
No problem.
Well, allow me to try
everybody.
and bring it up. I don't know if you guys noticed the big Russian in the film. He was.
He's LaFoy.
Yeah, he's LaFoy.
He's LaFour. He was LaFour's from Mallrats.
Yes. So Sven Ole Thorsen, he used to work out with Schwarzenegger. He and Schwarzenegger were good friends. So if you see a lot of Schwarzenegger films, he's usually in them somewhere. You know, he's in Gladiator, Running Man, Lethal Weapon, End of Days, of course, The Quick and the Dead, Hard Target. He's the we've done Hard Target. He was the guy with the crossbow, if I remember correctly. Last Action Hero. Like, he's just in a ton of stuff. Conan the Barbarian. And he was kind of brought into Hollywood with Arnold and has just made a career of being this very large, imposing man. So, yeah.
If things would have worked out different, he'd have been governor of California.
Sven Ole Thorsen. He's got kind of a...
What a name. Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah.
All right. Let's put it to vote. I'm going to start with Kyle.
Oh, man. I don't know. I can't remember who picked these movies as a lineup, but it's as close as any episode I've ever been on. And not just because they're similar. Well, they are similar subject matter and definitely similar settings, but really quality films and good from top to bottom. Didn't find any real problems with them that I couldn't overlook, and I was immersed in these long stories. Man, I'm gonna go with The Hunt for Red October just on my gut feeling that I enjoyed it more.
All right, Tom.
Okay, so this is crazy. So I voted for Crimson Tide on all 3 categories, but I'm voting for Hunt for Red October, and I can't put my finger on it. But when I think of these 2 movies, Hunt for Red October is just feels like a better movie, and I know that I feel I truly believe that Crimson Tide has better acting, directing, and writing. But when it all comes together and you have a story, and I will watch Crimson Tide more in the future even. So I'm not even going with the repeatability thing, but I just got to say Red October I just feel like it's a better movie.
All right. Gabe.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the tougher decisions because they are quite equally matched in many respects. And I really don't know. I don't have good reasoning. I think I'm going to have to go with Hunt for Red October as well.
All right. Yeah, this is difficult. But I'm going to go with the rewatchability. Like Tom said, I will probably rewatch both of these films. You know, if they're on TV, I definitely will rewatch them. But what would make me go to my DVD shelves or my Blu-ray shelves, or even, look it up on my computer, which one would pull me that direction? And I would have to say Red October would do that. So I'm going with Red October simply because of I would choose to watch that one first over Crimson Tide. So there you go. Yeah. Now, real quick, before we go on to our recommendations for this month, I believe that we discussed doing our James Gandolfini and Sean Connery impersonations. So, who wants to go first?
I'll go first. You pick which one you want me to try.
All right, Kyle, you were actually joking about doing the Gandolfini. So
hey, you fucking cocksucker! It's my boat. It's his boat. It's his boat. You fucking cocksucker! I just got the Sopranos in my head. Sorry. Jesus. I can't do that smirk. He has a shit-eating grin, and such a smirk on his face. He's really good at it.
He does. Yeah.
Pasta fazool.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I mean, I can go on for an hour, but we got shit to do.
Gabe?
Whenever I think of Sean Connery, I think of the impersonations on Saturday Night Live, and he's always like at some Christmas party or something. And he's
usually Jeopardy is what I think of.
Oh yeah, there's that too. Those are really funny.
I'll play it.
So I always do the Christmas thing. Is I won't be able to do it. I was doing it before the show, and now I probably won't be able to do it. But it was Christmas, 1965. I can't remember what else they say, but that's what always comes to my head for some reason. Like there's kind of like a Sean Connery kind of word. You can kind of like
Christmas. It's got the H Christmas.
And there's always the whole James Bond pussy thing, but I won't.
Handful of snatch. If I was a Bond girl, that'd be me. Handful of snatch. I just came up with that. I'm kind of proud of myself.
Tom.
I don't have a Gandolfini. So,
all right. So let's do your Connery.
So, yeah. So it's really great to be here today. That was really bad.
Like Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, that was Jimmy Stewart.
No, that wasn't Jimmy Stewart. That was a really big show.
Really big show.
Yeah, what's his name? Yeah,
when I'm alone in my car,
Ed Sullivan?
when I'm alone in my car, my Sean Connery is fucking perfect. So I don't know what to tell you.
Mine is much better when I'm alone too.
Yeah.
Now, whenever I start out with my Connery, I have to quote Dragonheart. I am the last one. Like that gets me into Connery. Let's see. Careful, Ryan. Some things in here don't react well to bullets.
You know, listen, watching Hunt for Red October, I bet I've heard you do 20 different Sean Connery quotes from that movie and never knew where they were from.
One ping.
You must have said one ping
only.
only. I mean, a dozen times in front of me, and I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? And now I get it. It's all falling into place.
We named a dog Indiana. You know, there. See,
Was that in
there's
this
my
movie?
Connery. No. That's from Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. But
Really?
I can just go on. I'm sorry about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I needed money.
You should be.
I needed money.
Needed the money. Oh, shit.
So yeah, my love for Sean Connery, I pulled, I don't know, what was it, like eight
gotta
or
do.
10 of us, and I'm like, we've got to go see League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Not only is it a great comic series, but it's got Connery in it. We got to go see it. And then afterwards, everyone that went with me asked for their money back.
I was there with you. We were not happy.
Oh God, it was bad. It was so bad.
was.
You know, but Connery was actually a shining light in it, even though he had shit to say. You know, it was just Connery. But anyway, so there is our Connery Gandolfini off.
Pretty pathetic.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always
cocksucker.
I always go back to the Jeopardy. I'll play your game, you rogue. I'll take the rapist for 600. That's therapist.
Anal bum cover.
Yes. Oh, so good. All right, let's move on to our recommendations for this month, and we'll go to the top. Kyle.
Can I recommend 85% of a movie?
Sure.
All right, I recommend 85% of Gerald's Game on Netflix. Watch it until you realize something dumb is going to happen. Then turn it off because you're right.
It's a movie?
Yes, they did a movie. Stephen King is having a renaissance right now. All the shit coming out with his name on it. But Gerald's Game is Carla Gugino and Bruce. God, I'm not going to say it right. Greenwood or Norwood. I can't remember his name.
Greenwood, probably.
Okay. And I mean, really, it's like there's not many people in the movie at all. 2 or 3 people in the whole movie for the most part. But it is awesome. Really well done. It has a very clever way of keeping it from getting boring. Her being in peril is awesome. She is great at it, and it has one of the most cringe-inducing scenes I've seen in a long time. If you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's hard to watch, and I think it's great. But there comes a point in the movie where you realize Stephen King's about to happen, and it's gonna screw this great movie about people up by making it weird. And when he does that, just stop. The movie's over.
It's done.
Or, like I've been stealing from How Did This Get Made? It's a Jacob's Ladder situation. And when that happens, that's just them dying. And the rest of it's all weird nonsense going on in their brain. Just ignore it. Because it's really good for most of the movie. And then at the end, I was like, you shouldn't have done that. You should have cut the last 15 minutes of this movie.
Bruce Greenwood.
Bruce Greenwood.
Yeah, he's
still
really
in
like him.
fantastic shape, by the way. My God, he's yoked. He's like, what is he, 65 or something?
Yeah, born
but
in
he is
56.
ripped. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the movie, it's only like an hour and a half, the movie.
Yeah.
So I really recommend it it's really got some great parts in it. But then once it gets to the end, I was like, oh man. Oof.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's a
You
great
guys watch
character.
it. Let me know what you think.
All right.
Because I really dug most of the movie. And then I don't know how I sit with the ending.
All right. Tom.
All right, so the movie I'm going to recommend is a submarine movie from 1981. It's a German movie, and you can find it in lengths of 149, 209, 138, 239, and 293 minutes. And that would be Das Boot.
Oh,
and
so good.
There's a really good reason why we didn't put Das Boot up against either of these movies, because Das Boot would have kicked their ass, because there is what Das Boot is the pinnacle of submarine movies. I mean, there's no one's ever done one better. I don't think anyone ever will, but it's directed by Wolfgang Peterson, who's done all your favorite action movies like Air Force One and whatever. So it's a whole cast of Germans. You're not going to know anybody in it.
No, you would know
Jürgen Prochnow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jürgen Prochnow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, he's in lots of big stuff. He was in Beverly Hills Cop too. So anyway.
And Dune.
So... Yes, I haven't seen Dune. So anyway, I would recommend Das Boot. If you watch it, I would recommend the director's cut. I haven't seen the 300-minute one. I kind of want to, but the director's cut's really good. It's the one I usually pop in. So, but it's if you're like stuck in your house, it's snowy, and you got nothing to do for 3-4 hours, pop in Das Boot. It's you won't be disappointed, especially if you like either of the movies we talked about tonight, because these two are way better.
It's pretty good. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Great story. Just a great story.
Gabe?
Well, this one is going to be a little bit predictable because I finally got to see Blade Runner 2049. And of course I'm going to recommend it.
I still haven't seen it. I've been trying to go for the last 2 weeks, and I still haven't seen it.
If you're gonna go sometime, let me know. And if you don't have anybody to join you, I'd like to see it again. Because I think there's a lot there. One viewing isn't usually good enough for most films. Any good film, you catch something on subsequent viewings. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit predictable. But I'm really happy with the new Blade Runner. I think it pays all due respect to the original. It keeps, as much as it can, it keeps the same kind of feeling to it. It's a really compelling, thought-provoking story. The acting is really good, and I just really enjoyed it. Now it does log in at almost 3 hours.
2:45, isn't it?
Yeah. But I have to say, I knew that going in, and I was a little bit concerned that it might be like, oh, come on, guys. Let's speed this up a little bit. It doesn't have to be this long. But I didn't ever really feel like, that it's like, I never felt bored. I always felt engaged. Cinematography is just gorgeous. I would be surprised if it doesn't win some awards for cinematography or visual effects and that kind of thing. And it's well written, and the references to the old one are very fun. It's really good. It is a worthy successor to Blade Runner in my mind. So go see it if you get a chance.
All right. That's a glowing review from a, I don't know, the unquestioned Blade Runner lover in this group. I mean, you absolutely love that film. Yeah. And that's saying a lot considering I really like it as well. But
I would love to see Blade Runner with Denzel in it. And watch Gabe's head explode.
It depends. If he plays like an angry cop or something, maybe.
Denzel in every role.
Yeah.
I was thinking the Sean Young role, but whatever.
That would be a little weird. But I realize that Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, is not for everybody, and people also think that the pacing is slow and it's too much. It's like they don't want to think that hard about the movies they're watching and that kind of thing. And so I realize it's not for everybody, but it is one of my favorites, especially visually. I just love what they do with it, and they do a really good job of continuing that visual style into the new one. So
cool. All right. I guess I will pick a submarine film. And it's from 2000, and it's actually a film that I believe I got to see for free, and turned out I really did enjoy it. It's set during World War II. It is directed by Jonathan Mostow, starring Matthew McConaughey, Bill Paxton, Harvey Keitel, David Keith, and the double threat, John Bon Jovi, which he was very surprising. He did actually a pretty great job in this. U-571. It's if I remember correctly. So far, I've been somewhat correct on my remembering correctly. The German submarine is boarded in disguise by disguised American submariners to capture their Enigma cipher machine, and I believe it is based on a true story. Now, I can't go through and read all this, but anyway, it's a great film, I believe, and maybe give it a shot if you want to watch Das Boot first, then watch this. So there you go. You guys ready to find out who won?
Yeah, I actually don't know.
Yeah, it's a nail biter.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is The Hunt for Red October!
I'm okay with that. Okay. That's about where I would put these two movies at. So,
And looking at that too, we all kind of picked that for a reason we couldn't put our finger on. Like it was so close, it was just like a gut feeling at the end to choose between the two of them.
It was. This makes me very happy. This is what I wish every episode of Cinesmack would be like. Where we actually have to really think hard about our decisions, which it's not always that easy to be able to get two films that we can have that trouble with, which it's a good thing to have the trouble with. But yeah, I wish more episodes were like this, and so this makes me very happy. All right, let's move on to our last little bit of business. Kyle, where can people maybe tell you one ping only?
Oof. I don't know. Does Grindr give out your location? Because I think you could ping. No, wait. I'm not supposed to be talking about that on here. You can find me on Facebook. Not that there's anything wrong with that. No. That's totally fine if that's your bag. Apparently it's mine because I said it was. Can you cut this? Okay.
No.
Oh, shit. All right. So I'm going to start a new app called Pinger, and it's just for men who want to get semen.
All right.
Pretty gross. All right, you can cut that part now. I'm going to make you cut this. It's going to get so filthy. You can find me on Facebook. I don't do any other social media stuff. Maybe I should have some sort of a brand, considering I'm becoming the Urkel of this podcast, right? I'll just show up, and eventually I'm going to be an android, and I'm going to control Reginald Vell Johnson, and it'll be great. You're Reginald Vell Johnson, Mike.
All right, fair enough. I'm okay with that. As long as I get Twinkies, I'm good with it.
Delicious.
Tom.
Twitter, Facebook, Vimeo is on there. I usually make a joke right here where people can find me, but I'm really claustrophobic, so I can't think of any jokes because, being in a submarine terrifies me and it's not funny. So I'm not going to say that. Plus, I just saw there's a new Star Wars teaser that just came out in the last 20 minutes. So can we wrap this up?
All right. Gabe.
Faster.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, and you can check out our films on onegenomeshort.com.
All right. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on iTunes or whatever podcasting service you use. You can contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search Cinesmack. For December, we have this is from Tom. We have a Pulp Fiction-y Christmas battle.
Don't blame me for that.
That's what you said. I wrote it down.
I know, but if you say Pulp Fiction-y Christmas movie, then people are like, oh, it's going to be bloody. And it's not bloody. It's storytelling mechanisms.
Right. We have a Pulp Fiction-y Christmas battle, not the gore, just the story, as Go takes on Love Actually, and we celebrate our 8-year anniversary. It's amazing. We got that one listener, Todd. Thank God for you. For Kyle, Tom, Gabe, and myself, thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
That's right, Money Penny. Nope, couldn't do it. Sorry.
I would like to have seen Montana. That's my Sam Neill.
Pretty
Sounded just
good.
like him.
Isn't he in Montana when Jurassic Park starts?
Yeah, actually he is.
They're in the same
Coincidence?
universe.
Oh my God.
Jurassic Park is Sam Neill's Jacob's Ladder.
It is. It's true.
He's dying on the boat, and he's like, I'm a dinosaur hunter.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.